So your speed is 113, quite close to Aiden's. And then the overall swing time was about 1,000 milliseconds. So it's about 1 second. And then 3 and 4 well separated, 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8. Okay, so in terms of the events, it's okay. Now, here's one thing that I want to attract your attention. So this is the clever speed. And then from here to here, this is backswing. But if you look at the clever speed, it's almost symmetric here. But I want the peak happening about here, later. So in other words, you gradually build this and then reach peak clever speed later, and then have a continuous transition. When this happens in the middle of the backswing, then usually that means your body reaches peak angular velocities early. Okay, so we'll take a look at that one later. Now the top view. So you show completely the opposite trend here. So the swing plane is outward. And this is about 7 degrees outward. Your hand motion plane is even more outward. So it shows about 7 degree difference. So your hands are moving more outward into out than the club. Now with this, you have to hit up quite a bit to hit the ball more, toward the center. But so these two planes are fairly outward, and you need to adjust this a little bit. So bring the swing plane about here, maybe 2 degrees into out, and the hand motion plane should be fairly aligned along the target line here. These are a bit too much into out. Okay? Now, when we align everything along the swing plane, then your club head motion is way away from the swing plane, high up, and then coming down here. So when this happens, actually during the downswing, your club head goes slightly below the swing plane, and then after that it goes way above here. So when you look at your hand motion, the hands are coming down this way in the downswing. This is your hand pad here, but then you have to have a lot of flipping here. It's because during the transition phase here, you're dropping your club head too much. So in this view here, when everything is aligned toward the target line, along the target line here, then your backswing pad, club head is just moving simply up here. But here you have too much shallowing here. Okay? So if we just look at this initially here, if you look at this pad here, this is fairly aligned. If you image an ellipse here, the long axis of the ellipse is fairly aligned along the target line. So backswing path is okay. But from the backswing to downswing here, you tend to bring this down too much. As a result, your swing plane becomes quite outward into out here. So as a result, when we align everything along the swing plane, then relative to the swing plane, your club head is going way up here. So you have a lot of shallowing motion here. This is a bit too much. So the best pattern is what Aiden was doing. So basically you move it along the swing plane and go a bit higher than that, and then have a nice simple looping motion and then coming down here. And then the slope, 47.8 degrees. The swing plane is 47.8, almost 48 degrees. This is a bit steep for your height. And then between the hand motion plane and the function swing plane here, about 10-degree difference here in terms of slope. It's because your swing plane is a bit too steep here. And then the center of mass motion. This is a whole body center of mass here. Basically, you don't have much lateral motion. You don't have that much lateral motion. So here, moving away and then going up to this point is okay. But here, from this, you have to have a reasonable shift toward the target and then turn around. But you're simply just turning around from there. So you don't have much lateral motion. This can go up to this point here. But again, go up here, turn around, and then turn around. So not much lateral motion. And you tend to drop your center of mass a bit more than Aiden did. But basically, you are limiting the lateral motion quite a bit here, just simply turning around. And then the pelvis motion, since you have an into-out swing, that means you tend to have a more pelvis turn rotation in the backswing. So this is how far you go. This is elite man's average maximum, but you are going this much. So you are turning your pelvis to the right more than man's average here. Although it's reasonably balanced here. And then you don't have enough lateral tilt. I want to see a more lateral tilt here. So let's see, if you look at the stick figure here. Here, so you have this motion here. You have early pelvis opening. Pelvis is not just turning backward, so change the direction nicely, but you have active pelvis turn at the beginning of the downswing. So go up. Yeah, this here. Here you are turning the pelvis quite a bit.
So, but when I need to have the club move first before.
No, not the club. Still, your pelvis is going early, but you don't have to intentionally turn this. Just to go up here and wind up, and from there, just moving this way, throw instead of. This limits your lateral motion here. So if you go up, wind up, and then coming down, shift first, and then swing, then the pelvis does not have to turn that quickly early, but go up here, and then your action is this. Quickly opening the pelvis. That's why that's what we see here. And when this happens, you will see that X factor keeps increasing in the downswing. So you have a tendency of rotating the pelvis a bit more than man's average, and then you have an early rotation back of the pelvis toward the target. And then if you look at your elbow position, elbow is again quite behind here. Here's X factor. This is X factor. Instead of keep increasing, you will see that the slope changes and then goes up again. So this is when you initiate the quick pelvis motion here. So during the backswing up to this point, you have this X factor increasing all the way here, and then the slope changes. So from this point on, both the shoulders and hips are moving together, rotating together. So the slope is a bit flatter. And this is when the pelvis rotation is completed. And then the pelvis starts rotating in the opposite direction, but you have a quick, early pelvis opening here. That's why this X factor further increases. and then you reach a peak value here. But rather, it doesn't matter how much you separate, but it has to be continuous separation and then going into a downswing. But so you have the tendency of quickly opening the pelvis at the beginning of the downswing. And then the kinematic sequence. So your pelvis peak angular velocity occurs about here. The green is the thorax, and the blue is shoulder. So pretty much you are reaching the peak angular velocity about here. So these are a bit early. Again, it has to be more, at the center of the backswing, middle of the backswing, then the arms and the club here. But these are happening a bit earlier. So your club head speed pattern was almost symmetric about the line drawn at the midpoint of the backswing here. This pattern was fairly symmetric. It reaches peak value in the middle of the backswing. It's because your body tends to reach peak angular velocity early. And then because of this shallowing motion, you also have a delayed release here. And in your case, you are actually generating good amount of angular velocity using your wrist. So here you see the difference. In your case, it's more coming from the body, but in your case, you're using the wrist. So wrist angular velocity goes above elite man's average. With that, you are keeping this club angular velocity above the elite man's average. So you tend to go here and then dropping this and delay the undercocking quite a bit here. The transition sequence is okay. Timing of the peak angular velocities in the downswing, these are also okay. But so the only thing is that you tend to, again, have early body motion in the backswing. But both of you have a reasonable transition here and then delayed release, which is, the positive side. Now, this is an interesting thing happening today here. You also tend to, so this is the beginning of the backswing, a little bit more force acting on the lead side, and then these crosses here, and then pick backswing push from the trail side about here. Then the force difference decreases, so now the two forces are equal to each other. So center pressure stays in the middle. After that, you have more force acting on the lead side. Both of you have the same thing here. This is quite unusual to see this pattern twice on a given day, unless you are coached by the same coach.
Yeah, because I'm from Indiana. I have a coach back home. He's from
San Antonio. Yeah, this is interesting. Sometimes when the coach pushes certain style to the students, then students can show a similar pattern here. But Valparaiso versus San Antonio.
Yeah.
And then two very different places, two different coaches, but you're showing similar pattern here. Or you may just watch each other swing and just try to imitate. But this is quite unusual. First, to see this pattern is quite unusual. But seeing this twice on a given day is even more unusual. And then, but with this, both of you are generating long momentum here. And then with that, you have the large torque here. But again, this is coming from your muscle actions here. So when you have good flow, then you will use these big muscles, the leg muscles and then the hip muscles, to generate good amount of torque. So it's easier. But you have a quick transition, quickly turning the body and then try to swing hard. And one thing I want to talk about here is, so again, initially your speed is equal to the body weight here. Your ground reaction force is equal to the body weight. And then you have active push here. So this force is greater than body weight. Then it'll be followed by unweighting. So the force goes below the body weight line here. But now from here to here, you do have this unweighting, but it's not much. And then later you are starting unweighting again and then reach the peak unweighting here. But rather, it should be connected here. You should have a continuous unweighting all the way to this here. But you have a hesitation and then abrupt unweighting and then push here. This is because you have too much time here. When you have an early onset of peak angular velocities of the body in the backswing, then from the peak to a transition point, you have too much time there, so you have hesitation. Then this unweighting is not that strong here. And then you have to start the unweighting again. So here you have initial unweighting all the way here, but you are starting unweighting again, second round of unweighting here. This is an abrupt unweighting. This means your backswing is not well connected to the downswing. So when you have a good backswing motion and from there you are going into downswing, then you will see more continuous unweighting here rather than hesitation here and then near the top of action you try to unweight again. And you're generating maximum force here more than elite man's average, but this peak is a bit sharp and you go up and quickly coming down. Yeah. But both of you are generating large torque here, which is good. This may be the source of your speed. So you're using the ground and it generate good amount of torque here. In your case, however, because of this unweighting, okay, abrupt unweighting, and then you push here, if this pushes too much, what happens is at impact, you will have unweighting here. At impact, the force goes below the body weight. So at impact, pretty much particularly your lead foot is almost leaving the ground here. Force is really small, right? And then the total force is passing on the left side of the center of mass. So then the momentum becomes negative, the torque becomes negative. So this torque is actually this direction, acting in this direction. While the rotation is in the downward direction, the torque near the impact is going in the opposite direction. So this torque will actually interfere with the rotation. It's because you have a jumping-like action here. So when you have an abrupt unweighting here, from there, when you try to push the ground hard here, and toward the impact, your body is almost jumping here. So you lose the force. But the best is swing through and stand on the lead side. No need to have jump-like action. Okay. So then when this happens, then this pushes up too much. So, in the both of you here, near the impact, the elbows are bent like this. And also, when everything is aligned along the swing plane here, when the club is aligned horizontally, again you draw a vertical line, the elbow is inside. That means the elbow is here, instead of coming in front of the body. So you have a similar pattern in regards to how you start the downswing. But the only difference is that in Aiden's case, you are moving both the club head and hands inward, but you are going outward here because in the transition, the shallowing motion is too much. And then this gives a lot of outward hit here. So in order to add impact, here, so this is still, this is the direction of the club head motion. This is still slightly outward here. Okay? And so this is the direction of swing plane, but the actual direction of the club head motion is more inward than the swing plane is because you have to hit it up. So in the swing plane here, when the club head is moving upward, then we'll look at this in the above the swing plane, then the club head is going slightly more inward than the swing plane. So you have to heat it up quite a bit. Otherwise, if this goes a bit flat, then you have a block shot. Or sometimes when you try to bring it in, then you have a low hook. It's simply because of the direction of the swing plane. So it's a bit too much. Okay. So consider reducing this angle here. And for that, go up here. This is too much. So go up and wait, and then bring the hands more forward instead of dropping this. If you look at the hand pad here, at the top, your hands are here, but once you start downswing, the hands actually goes a bit more backward here, initially. Go backward, and then go low here. But instead, bring this up from here, just coming more this way here, instead of coming this way. And then particularly you have the direction difference between the two planes. You have about 7-degree difference in the direction. So the direction your hands are thrown and the direction your club head is thrown is have a 7-degree difference. It's more difficult to control the direction. And I noticed that when we were capturing your swings, your ball went to the right side. It's probably because of this swing plane here. So this is something you need to pay attention to. Not too much shallowing here, but have to have a good image of the direction you are hitting the ball, and then maintain the swing plane more toward the target instead of severely inward. This happens because of the dropping here, and then going outward. So your hands show a lot of flipping. Okay? So on the way down, here, so at the top of backswing here, relative to swing plane, your hands are located farther away from the swing plane than your club head. So this means that this is a layoff alignment. When the club stays fairly parallel to the swing plane, it's a parallel alignment. When the club head goes more away from the swing plane, it's a crossover alignment. But in your case, it's a layoff. So you tend to intentionally drop the club head. From there, your hands are traveling down quite a bit. See here. So when the club head is staying closer to the swing plane, then naturally you have to drop your hand quite a bit. When the club head is more away from the swing plane, you tend to pull this in, pull the hands inward, try to adjust the club head motion. But when you drop it too much, then you have to quickly drop the hands on the way down. So that gives in to out swing pattern. But anyways, here, so again, I see an interesting trend here. This motion here. So by moving this down here, and then later you are uncocking the wrist. So that gives a reasonable amount of speed to the club head. But again, you are limiting your lateral motion quite a bit here. So this pattern is not natural. Okay? Now, for both of you, I'll give you a different pattern here, which can perhaps inspire you here. This is Grant Waite, former PGA Tour player. He uses slightly less than 1,000 millisecond time here, so faster than both of you. His peak club speed occurs right side of the midpoint here. And then his speed is about 114.8, so similar to yours. This is the swing plane, this is the hand motion plane. You will see these are parallel to each other, and these are fairly well aligned toward the target here. So then if you throw your hands toward the target, then the club head also will move in that direction. And then if we align everything along the swing plane, so here you see a similar shadowing pattern. This is similar to Aiden's. The only thing is that he has a bit more deviation than yours, but initially it's moving along the swing plane. It goes above and then nice looping motion and coming down. But this shouldn't be too much. So at the top, the club is fairly parallel to the swing plane, right? Instead of the club head dropped here. So this is the cause of your into out swing. When you drop the club head too much, then your hand also travels down here. But in his case, fairly maintaining this parallel to each other, parallel to the swing plane. So on the way down, but because of this looping motion, early part of the downswing, his club head is moving quickly toward the swing plane, and then he has really good planar motion here, and then goes above here. And then the center of mass motion here. So center of mass moves away and goes up, diagonally down, and then diagonally up here. So he has a lot more horizontal motion than you. In your case, you were between these here. So you were confining your lateral motion of the center of mass about here. But he goes a lot more toward the target. So he has good shift motion and then turn around. So he can stand on his lead leg. Pelvis motion, a bit less than men's average, and then so here's a bit more than average, but these are reasonably balanced here. And then a good lateral tilt, and then so stays here and then goes down and up. So at impact, the pelvis goes above its initial position, and then move away and then recenter here, and he keeps moving the pelvis center of mass all the way to the impact here. And then X factor keeps increasing all the way, and then not much increase here because he's not opening the pelvis that quickly here. So go up here and then just a smooth transition to downswing and then throw. Kinematic sequence. He has really good, well separated sequential transition here. In the backswing, the peak for the pelvis it occurs about here. Thorax and shoulders, these are all happening pretty much in the middle of the backswing here. Then the arms and club here. Good delayed release. And then enough wrist angular velocity here. So it's a good smooth transition here, sequential transition. And then the way he uses the ground, at the beginning of the backswing here, you will see that he has more force on the lead leg here. So with that, he's having more active initiation of the backswing here, and a good push from the trail side here. But he maintains this difference here, so that throughout the entire backswing, all the way to top of backswing here, he still has more force acting on the trail side, and also using his horizontal force here, he's inclining the force arrow quite a bit, and then with that, he's maintaining long momentum here and sufficient torque here. You will see that he has a continuous unweighting here. So the unweighting phase is fairly short. It's continuous and then going up here. He still generates a good amount of force here. But after that, at impact, still his ground reaction force is greater than the body weight here. Okay? And then this torque does not go below the excess quite a bit here. So it's close to, it's a 0, but does not go negative here. So it's not working against the rotation. So the main thing in his case is that generally the force arrows are passing through the hip joint in the frontal view. So this force is going through this hip joint. This force is going through this hip joint here. The only exception is when he starts when he's going into a downswing, early part of downswing, both are inclined this way. With this, he has good horizontal component, so the force inclines quite a bit. With that, he develops long momentum here. And then after that, push from the lead side here. Then it's still passing through the hip joint here. But in your case, about here at the top of action, both of you, have more force on the leader side, and also the force arrow is already fairly upright. But in his case, he has more force on this side and then good inclination. This is the typical pattern, or the ideal pattern here. So you tend to have early shift and then have more force acting on the leader foot at top of action. And then it's important to have a continuous unrating here. And then so in his case, if we look at the kinematic sequence here, with this delayed release, and then the wrist angular velocity goes above Elitman's average. So with that, he's generating this much here. So he's using the wrist quite well. The body sequence is good here. With that, using also wrist reasonably and swing through. So you don't have to put a lot of effort, particularly abrupt unrating and push here. So the patterns are a bit different. Okay. And we have different ways to look at the swing, but so in both of you, it will be beneficial to develop more stepping-like rhythm. Okay. And then particularly you need to have more lateral motion. It's too restricted. So you're pretty much just spinning instead of having good shift motion. Any questions? Have you ever done something like this before?
I've done gears before, but it definitely wasn't as accurate. Or
Gears is
yeah, yeah. This is way more in depth and way more, precise.
now there's a new system called Motion to Coach. It also provides in-depth information, but we'll have a system here soon, so we'll be able to test it. Yeah, so really, on one hand, you have to develop good motion patterns so that you don't put a lot of burden on your body. When you keep doing this, eventually, if the motion pattern is not right, then you will develop issues. Particularly in golf, low back issues are quite common. That's coming from excessive spine motion, particularly when your lower body is not that active and you try to turn the shoulders a lot, then you have the risk of putting a lot of burden on the spine. He's actually a sports medicine doctor, so so it's important to develop the rhythmic motion, and then both of you tend to have the wrist, the elbow coming to the side of the body here. It's kind of important to bring this more in front of your body, and then good extended arm here, and then swing through. Release it instead of dragging.